Hello and welcome to this tutorial where I'm going to show you how to crochet these really fun circles. I'm Eleonora from Coastal Crochet. So these circles are based on the technique of Tunisian crochet. Very different technique, has a very different back to the front. And Tunisian crochet normally needs a long hook, but you don't need a special hook for this. You can use a standard crochet hook, and that's because we're going to be working short rows to produce these segments, and therefore you only need a maximum of 10 loops on the hook at each time, and most standard crochet hooks will allow for that. They make great coasters, lots of fun for little projects, but I've incorporated this Tunisian circle into the centre of my new blanket design, the Down by the Sea blanket. There's more about this over on my website, www.coastalcrochet.com. Let's get started. I'll show you how to work these. So we always start with a hook size bigger than what we would normally use with the yarn, because the Tunisian crochet fabric is quite dense, and by going up a hook size it just helps with that. So I'm using a DK weight yarn here. I normally use a 4.5mm, but I'm going to be using a 5.5mm with this yarn. We need to begin with a round of simple double crochet, that's US single crochet stitches. Now we can begin this in the traditional way by making 4 chain, slip stitching into the first chain to form a ring, or we can make a magic circle. It's personal preference. By making a magic circle you can pull the ring really tightly closed. So I'll show you how I make my magic circle. Have the tail end of the yarn in your hand. I wrap round my fingers like so, cross over at the back and bring that loop under like so. I insert my hook into that loop, just hold everything secure while I get the working yarn ready, and then I put my fingers into that ring to really secure it. And now I'm ready to make 1 chain, which doesn't count as a stitch. It's just to get your hook up to the right height. And now we're going to do 6 double crochet or 6 US single crochet into the ring. So ordinary double crochet, US single crochet stitches. That's 1, that's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And now you can see with the tail end of the yarn I can pull that ring shut, and it goes really nicely tightly shut. And so now we're going to slip stitch into the first double crochet, US single crochet, that we made to close off this round. And you can always count back. The loop on the hook doesn't count as anything, and you can see your stitches by these V's. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then there is my number 6. So insert your hook into that stitch as normal underneath both strands like so, and work a slip stitch. And now we have a complete round of double crochet, US single crochet stitches ready to start our segments. So the rest of our circle is now going to be made in short rows of Tunisian crochet, and the short rows of Tunisian crochet will produce the segments that make up our circle. There are 12 segments in total. So let's make segment 1, and we begin by making 9 chain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is going to be the width of our circle. This technique, you can make bigger circles and do bigger segments with more stitches, but for this tutorial I'm going to work with 9 chain to begin with. And in Tunisian crochet, the right side of the work is always facing, so we're not going to be turning the work at all, and each loop on the hook will represent 1 stitch. And likewise, each chain represents one stitch. So if you look at these 9 chain, the final chain we made, the 9th chain here, because the loop on the hook counts as the first stitch, we're not going to crochet into that first chain, but we're going to insert our hook into the second chain, so not this first one, but the next one in, under just that top strand of the chain only. Insert your hook into that top strand, yarn over hook and pull up a loop like so, and we leave the loop on the hook. We're going to do that again, so insert your hook into the next chain under the top strand only, yarn over hook and pull up a loop. We now have 3 loops on the hook. Now we're going to do this again in each of the next 6 chain, so go to the next chain along, insert your hook under the top strand of that chain, yarn over hook and pull up a loop. That's 1. I'm going to do it again in the next one. That's 2. Each time leave the loop on the hook. That's 3. 4. There's 2 more chain to do. 5. 1 more chain before we get to the circle. And that's 6. And if you look back, you should now have 9 loops on the hook. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And we can use a traditional crochet hook because we're only going to have 1 more, so 10 loops in total on the hook at each time. With Tunisian crochet, when you're working long rows, you're going to have a lot more loops on your hook, and that's why you need a Tunisian crochet hook to do the stitches. But we can use an ordinary crochet hook because we're only going to get 1 more loop on the hook, and that is we're going to join the yarn to the actual central circle. And if you look at the stitch where our 9 chain is coming out from, the first stitch that we slip stitched into there at the end of the first round, we're going to insert our hook into that stitch within the central circle, yarn over and pull up a loop, and that is going to be our 10th loop. So we now have 10 loops on the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now we're going to do the return pass. So each row of Tunisian crochet has a forward pass, which involves picking up the loops, which is what we've done here, and then ends with a return pass. And for the circle, for the segments we're going to do, each return pass is done in exactly the same way and begins by doing yarn over hook and pull through 2 loops on the hook. Yarn over hook, pull through 2 loops. Yarn over hook, pull through 2 loops. Yarn over hook, pull through 2, and continue this all the way until the end, until you've only got 1 loop left on the hook. So yarn over, pull through 2, 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 until you only have 1 loop left on the hook. And there's the beginnings of our first segment. So that's the first row of the Tunisian crochet. We're going to work our second row. It's Tunisian simple stitch that we're doing. And if you look at the work, you can see these vertical strands, these vertical bars going across row 1. That is what we're going to be working behind. So the loop on the hook, that counts as the first stitch. So we're not going to go into this very outer vertical strand. We don't go behind that one. It's the next one in. So you see the vertical bars, the next one in from the outer edge. Insert your hook from right to left behind that vertical bar, yarn over hook and pull up a loop. And then we're going to repeat that 6 times more until we have 8 loops on the hook. So there's the next vertical strand. Insert your hook behind that, yarn over hook and pull up a loop. There's the next one. Insert your hook behind that strand, yarn over hook and pull up a loop. and we're going to keep going until we've got 8 loops on the hook in total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 3 more. Yarn over hook, pull up a loop. Yarn over hook, pull up a loop. There's 1 more to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1 more to do. Go behind that vertical bar, yarn over and pull up a loop. And when you've got 8 loops on the hook, we stop and we leave the rest of the row unworked. This is how, by doing the short rows, we're going to get the triangular segment shape. So when you've got 8 loops on the hook, we then complete our return pass just like we did in row 1, which is yarn over hook and pull through 2 loops. Yarn over hook, pull through 2. 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 Yarn over hook, pull through 2, and you do that until you have only 1 loop left. And if you look now, that's row 2 of the segment complete. Moving on to row 3, again we simply are picking up loops on the forward pass. Loop on the hook counts as a stitch, so we don't go in the outer one. So the next one in, insert your hook from side to side behind that vertical bar, yarn over hook and pull up a loop. Going to repeat that 4 times more until we have 6 loops on the hook. Yarn over, pull up a loop. So it's the vertical bar in row 2. You can see the vertical bars down here in row 1. We're now going behind the vertical bars in row 2, like so. Yarn over, pick up a loop. There's the next one. And 1 more till we've got 6 loops on the hook behind that vertical bar. Yarn over, pick up a loop until you've got 6 loops on the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And again, we leave the rest of the row unworked. And then complete the return pass. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Once more, yarn over, pull through 2 until you've got 1 loop left on the hook. And there, quite clearly, you can see we've done 3 rows, but we're starting to get that segment triangular shape. So moving on to the next row, just like before, we're going behind the vertical bars. Insert your hook not on the outer one, the next one in, yarn over, pull up a loop. Do that twice more now until you have 4 loops on the hook. There we go, got 4 loops on the hook, and then complete your return pass. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So now we've done 4 rows, which again you can see clearly. 1 more row to do. It's a very, very short row, and then we will be changing colour. So this next row, the 5th and final row in this colour, is a very short row indeed. You've got the loop on the hook, so don't go into this outer strand, but insert your hook behind the next vertical strand in from side to side, yarn over and pull up a loop, and you stop there. It's a very short row, but at this point we're going to change colour. So if you get your next colour, and the return pass is going to be made in this colour, but as you can see there are only 2 loops on the hook, so pop the new colour over your hook and then pull through the 2 loops on the hook. This is your return pass, yarn over, pull through 2, but there are only 2 loops to pull through. So that is the 5th row complete, and now we're going to start our next segment in the new colour. Now we're going to work this segment in a very similar way. The difference now is how we pick up the loops in this first row. So in the first segment we picked up the loops from a starting chain of 9, but now we're picking up loops from the rows below, and we just need to pay attention which vertical strands we're going to be picking up. So if you have a look, we did 5 rows in the first segment. 1, 2, 3, 4. This one is 5. But to keep the work extra neat, I'm not going to crochet into the vertical strands at the end of the row, but rather the one below. So we're not actually going to crochet behind any of the vertical strands, those 2 in the 5th row. Your loop on the hook counts as your first stitch, so we're not crocheting into this one, and actually we're going to go into the one below the end one on the 5th row. So if you count up, you can actually see 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the 4th vertical strand up from the bottom. Insert your hook behind that vertical strand, yarn over hook, and pull up a loop. Now insert your hook behind the next vertical bar in the same row. We're not quite at the end yet, so just in the same row, the 4th row up, insert your hook behind that vertical bar, yarn over hook, and pull up a loop. Now you can see at the end, we're at an end vertical bar, and so rather than go behind that one, I want to go behind the one below it, which actually is the 3rd, 1, 2, 3, 3rd vertical bar up from the bottom. Insert your hook behind that vertical bar, yarn over hook, and pull up a loop. Now go behind the next vertical bar in that same row, so the 3rd row. Insert your hook behind that vertical bar, yarn over hook, and pull up a loop. Now we're at the end of the bars in that row. Don't want to go into the end one, it's the one below, which is now 1, 2, the 2nd vertical bar up from the bottom. Insert your hook behind there, yarn over hook, and pull up a loop. Then in the same row as that one, there is a vertical bar. Just never be afraid just to pull the work apart a little bit if you can't see it. There it is, behind that vertical bar, and yarn over hook and pull up a loop. Now we're at the end of the row again. The next vertical bar is at the end of the row. Don't want to go into that one. I want to go into the vertical bar directly below it, which is actually in the 1st row that we did. Yarn over hook and pull up a loop. We've now got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 loops on the hook. So there's one more vertical bar to work behind. You can see that here. Yarn over hook, pull up a loop. That gives us 9 loops on the hook. And now we want to go into the same stitch that we went into previously on our round of double crochet US single crochet stitches. So you can see where we crocheted into before, where the 9 chain was coming out of at the start. Insert your hook into that same stitch, yarn over hook, and pull up a loop. And now we have 10 loops on the hook, and we do the return pass. So yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Keep going until you only have 1 loop left on the hook, like so. And there is our first row of the 2nd segment in the different colour. It's going to look a little bit holy, as you can see. That's very, very normal in Tunisian crochet. The row that you've just done always looks a little bit more holy, and then we fill it in when we're picking up the loops in the next row. And let's move on to row 2. So the next 4 rows, rows 2, 3, 4 and 5, are made in exactly the same way as we did in our first segment, picking up the loops. So loop on the hook counts as the first stitch, so we don't go into this outer vertical strand, we go behind the next one in, yarn over hook and pick up a loop. Do that 6 times more until we have 8 loops on the hook. So go behind each vertical bar, yarn over, pull up a loop, and do this until you have 8 loops on the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. One more behind that vertical bar, yarn over, pull up a loop. So I've got 8 loops on the hook, and now we work the return pass. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, keep going, yarn over, pull through 2, all the way until you have just 1 loop remaining on the hook. And there we go. That's the second row of the second segment. Again, repeat the third row that we did in the first one. So insert your hook behind the second vertical bar in, yarn over hook, pull up a loop. Repeat that 4 more times until you have 6 loops in total on the hook. Picking up loops by going behind those vertical bars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and leave the rest of the row unworked. Work your return pass as normal. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and repeat this all the way to the end when you have 1 loop left on the hook. So 2 more short rows to do. So insert your hook behind the next vertical bar. Repeat that a couple more times until you have 4 loops on the hook. That's 1. Once more here, behind that vertical bar, yarn over, pick up a loop. 4 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So now, as you can see, we've done 4 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4 in this new colour. This next row is a very, very short one, and it's where we change colour again. So loop on the hook counts as the first stitch. Insert your hook behind the next vertical bar, pull up a loop, and stop there. Now, we didn't fasten off our colour from before. We can bring this up. Depending what you want to do with your segments, you might want to fasten off and weave in the ends and then just join a new piece of the colour in now. But for my one, I'm going to be doing an outer edging, and therefore I'm not fastening off the colour, but just trailing it up like so. And with the new colour, yarn over, pull through the 2 loops on the hook. And so now we're ready to move on to the third segment. So each segment is made in exactly the same way as the yellow one we just did. And there are 12 segments in total to make up the circle. The only difference is we're now going to be going into the next double crochet stitch along when we get to the stitches in the central circle. So each of those 6 double crochet US single crochet stitches will have 2 segments coming out of it. I'll show you what I mean when I get there. So here we go. So just like before, we're going to go into the row below for the vertical bar, not the one that's at the end of the row. So this one here, insert your hook behind that vertical strand, yarn over, pull up a loop. Go into the next vertical strand on that same row, but now we're going to dip down to the one below. 4. Then we're going to go behind. Sometimes they get a little bit tucked in, the vertical strands, so again, don't be afraid just to pull your work apart so you can really see the vertical strands. We're now at the end of that row, don't want to go into that end strand, so we go behind the one below it. Then the next vertical strand, again this one's tucked in a little bit, you see it's got a little bit small there. Sometimes that happens depending on tension, but don't be afraid just to get your hook behind there. We're now at an end vertical bar. I don't want to go into the end, so go behind the one beneath it. There we go. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There should be 9 loops picked up along the row, and then your 10th loop into there. And again, it's got a little bit tight due to tension, but it is there. Don't be afraid, just to really get your hook in there behind that vertical strand, yarn over and pull up a loop. So I've got 9 loops now, and my 10th loop will be picked up by going into the next double crochet, US single crochet stitch along on this central circle. So you can see 2 rows were coming out of this stitch here. It's the next one along, so into this one here, the next stitch along, which hasn't been worked into yet. Insert your hook into that stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, and there I have my 10 loops. And now return pass as normal, yarn over hook, pull through 2, yarn over hook, pull through 2, and keep doing this. And there we go. That is the beginnings of the 3rd segment. Again, it doesn't matter that it's all looking very holy. As you can see, that gets filled in when we work our next segment. And so then this is made in exactly the same way. So you can rewind this video to row 2, either on this segment or this segment, because it's made in exactly the same way. And now I'm on the last row. 1, 2, 3, 4 rows I've worked. So on the 5th row, which is the very, very short one, insert your hook behind that vertical bar, pull up a loop, and now we can change colour again. And also you can see there that first row, which was looking a bit holy, it's now filled in, so you get nice crisp changes between the colours. So again, I'm carrying my yarn up because I'm going to be crocheting around it with an outer edging, but if you don't want that, you can always snip the yarn and rejoin a new piece. So yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and here we are, ready to start my 4th segment, picking up the loops in exactly the same way, and this time going into the same stitch here on the circle. When we get to the next red and yellow segments, 5 and 6, that'll go into that stitch. 7 and 8 will go into this one, 9 and 10 will go into this one, and then 11 and 12 will go into this stitch. So keep working these segments until you've done 12. So I'm nearly at the end. I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 segments. I've just got a couple more rows to do on this last one. So 1, 2, 3, I'm on the 4th row. So just picking up 4 loops on this one. 4 loops and then the return pass. And then I'm on the final row, just picking up that 1 loop. And at this point, on the other segments, we have been changing colour, but on this one we don't. So yarn over and pull through those 2 loops. And now what we want to do now, because now the circle is going to close, but we need to sew that closed. So we're just going to fasten off, so pull a long strand through, but a strand of yarn long enough to be able to use to sew closed that final join. So here we go. So I've fastened off. And now we're just going to use a mattress stitch join to close this segment. I'll show you how to do that. So with the right side facing, thread the piece of yarn, the tail of yarn that you've just cut onto a yarn needle, and keep the right side facing, and we're going to do a mattress stitch join. So insert your hook from front to back into the base of the first segment and come out like so, a little bit further on. It's about being consistent, making sure you're inserting your hook into the same place each time. And now go back to where your yarn came from on the first side, and again just go a little bit further along like so. Now insert your hook into the same place where the yarn came out of before, and then just go a little bit further along. Back on the first side, insert your hook into the same place, and then go a little bit further along. Insert your hook into the same place like so. And what will happen in a minute, you will see, it's a bit like magic. If we now pull tight, you will see it closes up really, really neatly. And then go back into the same place where the yarn came out of. Go a little bit further along, and here, and here. This is a really nice way to join fabrics. I'm a big fan of the mattress stitch. When you're at the end, just pop your hook, your needle through so the yarn is on the wrong side, and just pull tight this final bit. And as you can see, when you're pulling tight, you can see how it all closes. And there we go. So you can see now that's a pretty neat and firm join. And on the back, it actually looks very similar to the other joins of the segments. So the back looks very, very different to the front, but there you go. There is your circular carousel. Now I think to neaten it, for me, we're going to do the outer edge, which is why I didn't cut the strands of yarn, because we're going to crochet around them now. So you can go back to your standard crochet hook size. I'm going back to my 4.5, and you can edge these with any stitches you like. I'm going to do half treble, that's US half double crochet stitches. And if you look at the outer edge, each row, the end has these lovely V's, so they look just like traditional crochet stitches, and that is where you'll be inserting your hook when you're going around. So actually it's very easy to produce a very nice neat edging. Also, I'm going to be crocheting around these loose strands. That's important to remember. And each segment was made up of 5 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the very short one, 5. So there will be 5 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 going across each segment. So join your yarn into any stitch. I still have my red yarn attached there, so I might as well insert it into that last stitch there on that segment. Pull the yarn through and then make 2 chain, which counts as the first half treble US half double crochet. And we're going to begin by making an increase. So work another half treble US half double crochet into that stitch. It's very important as well to go around those loose strands. If you haven't cut the yarn, I haven't got one here or here, but I will do when I get to the next segment, so I will show you that when we get there. So I've done 2 chain, 1 half treble US half double crochet in the same place, and now it's 1 half treble US half double crochet in each of the next 14 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, going across the next segment, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I now have the loose strand to crochet around. See that red one going across? So make sure that when you insert your hook, you also go under that strand to capture it. So that's 11, 12, remember to capture that strand, 13, and then 14. So that's 14 half treble, US half double crochet, and you can see on the back I've captured that strand. And so now in the next one we're going to do two half treble, US half double crochet, 1 and 2, and then repeat that again with 14, remembering to capture the pieces of yarn at the back. 13, 14, and then in the next one another increase, so then 2, 1 and 2. So you can see now going around, and in the back going around those strands is looking much neater. And carry on again, so 1 half treble, US half double crochet in each of the next 14, and then we work 2 half treble in the next stitch. And there you go. There is a really lovely fun carousel wheel. The little loose strands are tidied up. Obviously we need to weave in these ends. It's got a very clear reverse and right side to it, Tunisian crochet, but what a lovely fun effect this is. This is the beginning of my Down by the Sea blanket, but of course these can be used on their own. They make great little coasters, mix and match colours. So I hope you found this tutorial helpful. Thanks for watching.